welcome to my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond. We're here on a special night because there was some stuff going on our night. I guess they didn't realize that Tuesday nights is for the podcast. Every 4 years they have this election thing on Tuesday nights, so that's fine. We went over to Wednesday this week. Next week, remember, we'll be back on Tuesday. So Tuesday, it'll be, let's see, the 12th will be the date. So just 6 days from now or whatever that math is. And we're going to go over the episode in a minute and the other episodes we're going to hit episode 101 is going to be our last episode this year, December 17th. And we're going to talk about all the episodes again here coming up. So I want to welcome our studio audience here. Oh, no, we don't have a studio audience, but that's all right. But we're coming from Studio J live in beautiful Enid, Oklahoma. It's a balmy 58 degrees in downtown Enid tonight, so that's great. I'm here actually on my day off. I don't usually work on Wednesdays unless I'm judging a weekend show or something, and then I'll take, Saturday off or a Friday for travel, and then I'm here on Wednesdays. But usually I'm off on Sundays and Wednesdays, and then, like I say, I'll work Wednesday, if I have to do that. This weekend I was off on the weekend, so I had to work Saturday, so I took today off. So anyway, I'm just waiting for some people to join us here. We do have a quick, short and sweet episode tonight. It's called episode 97, and it is the Siri Chief Heritage. It's not really going to be about the Siri POAs that much. A lot of us know about that. You can watch episode 2, which was fitting because Siri Chief was the second registered POA, so we're going to get into that in a minute. But, about his heritage and some of the stories I grew up with, and then how they started changing, and some of them were just stories, and even to this day, some of it hasn't been proven, and some of it has. So I just thought I would do this episode as kind of a quick, fun episode, because we do have some big, long episodes coming up at the end of the year here. So this one is just, like I said, it's probably going to be a half an hour or so, and it's going to talk about some horses that were born in the 20s, 30s and 40s, probably some leopards, and how the old timers believed in them. If you're newer to POAs, you'll probably really enjoy this story because you may never heard some of these stories. So with that said, though, let's talk about what we're gonna have coming up. So of course, this is episode 97. October 15th was episode 96, and I just want to thank everybody. It's got over 2,000 viewers. That was the Hall of Fame episode. Tracy Sweet Keen was my guest from Florida. And then before that, Amber Dreyer Hansen from Wisconsin. That episode has over 3,000 views. That was the one about her farm, Crier Country POAs. Next week, like I said, on November 12th, will be the Hidden Gem Farms. That's Jordan Ashbrenner and her mom, Wendy. We do have a sponsor for that one, Maxine and Chuck Shackleton from Iowa. They own Doc's Rough and Zip. Of course, Hidden Gem Farms is the HGF prefix. They have a son of Rough and Zip as one of their stallions, their senior stallion, and that's Clay Hill Lazy Loper. So we'll be talking to them about their younger POA program and the success they're having with some of their good POAs. The 99th episode will be the next week after that. Again, these will all be on Tuesdays. That'll be November 19th. We have special guest Bob Roseland. He's a pedigree expert and one of the best Wieskamp experts in the history of the horse business. He knows the Wieskamp pedigrees and bloodlines and stories better than anyone alive, probably, and that I think for sure. And the episode is going to be the Wieskamp impact on POA. So if you never heard of Hank Wieskamp, tune in. You're in for a treat. If you've got the book about Wieskamp, they don't mention POAs in there, but this is going to be the impact that his quarter horses and Appaloosas made on the POA breed. And of course, we'll be talking with Bob about some pedigrees, and he has just a treasure trove of pictures. We won't have all, he's got thousands of pictures. We'll have some of his pictures on the air that night. So I want to thank Bob for being a guest on there. We're also looking for a sponsor for that episode. That's going to be a great episode, so you may want to sponsor. It's only $50 per sponsor. I cut it to 2 sponsors so you don't have a lot of competition. And then the first episode in December 3rd, will be the Pat Burton episode. We're going to be talking about Pat's life growing up in POAs. And then as a farrier and raising POAs and showing them, and just everything he's done, every aspect. He was president of the board for a while. Just all his involvement in POA. Of course, he continues. Him and Janelle and Declan are down there in Texas raising and showing POAs. So that's going to be a big episode, and we're looking for some sponsors for that too, for that episode. And then we'll end the year on December 17th. That's our traditional episode. This will be our 4th year for that episode. That's the stallion roster. We already have 5 stallions committed to that. We'll probably get close to 30. If we get around 30 stallions, I'll split it to Tuesday night, half of them, and Wednesday night, half of them. So look forward to that. It'll be the 17th and possibly the 18th. If I only get like 15 or 20, we'll just do them all like we have the last few years, even though we had like 28 last year. I did them all in 1 year. My voice got a little tired at the end. So this year we may, to do more justice for each stallion, we may do 2 episodes. And we do have that on here. So these are what I was just talking about. The Siri Chiefs Heritage episodes tonight, then Hidden Gem Farms, then the Wieskamp Impact episode, Pat Burton episode, and then 101 episode on the 17th of December. That'll be our 101st episode of the Black Hand and Beyond podcast. That will be December 17th. December 5th is the deadline for that. So you want to get in your nominations for that. There I am. Oh, we don't need to see that. There we go. So you should be seeing that. Hi, Dean. Hi, Terry. We have some Iowa people saying hello. Welcome aboard, guys. So here is the stallion nomination form. A lot of people have done it every year. Many people. Some people that's done it every year has already sent their stallions in this year. Like I said, I have 5 already. So the 2025 stallion roster will be live 12/17. Deadline is 12/5, so the 5th of December. And you just see here, you can contact me and I can send you email or whatever, a digital one. Hello, Ryan from Texas. Hello, Kim from Wisconsin. We have 3 states represented now. We're about ready to get into the show. I'm just doing some housekeeping here. So if you need this stallion roster thing, and if you know somebody with a quarter horse or an Appaloosa that wants to be involved in this, it is a pretty cheap way to get, I know Facebook and stuff is free, but this podcast is going to be on forever, and then it goes on to YouTube too. So 70 some of the episodes are on YouTube, and eventually all 100 of them will be on YouTube here pretty soon. So then they're on there forever on the POA history channel on there. So check that out too. So if you know somebody that wants to put their stallion in, let them know. And we have some really cool pictures that night, 5 each. We have pedigrees for all the stallions, and then I just kind of do what I'm doing here, just start talking about these stallions. So it's always one of my favorite episodes. If it's not too warm in here, I put on a Santa hat, and we have a good time. Maybe I won't shave for that episode like I did tonight. So, all right, go back to, that's what we have coming up. Some really good episodes coming up for sure. So the next 4 episodes after tonight. There's only 4 left this year, and we're going to hit the 100 mark. So 101, I'm pretty proud of that we're going to break the 100 barrier. We started in 21, I think, or 21, 22, 23. This is our 4th year. So this by far is our biggest year. I think we did 31 year, that we're at 31 tonight. This is our 31st episode. So let me go on here and get some pictures. Who else we got on here now? Lori from Wisconsin. Now we have 2 Iowa, 2 Wisconsin, and 1 Texas. We need another Texas person to balance us out. We need some Minnesota and Oklahoma people to join us. So, all right, let's see. So here's the 3 main stallions we're going to be talking about tonight. And I apologize, these pictures didn't come over very good. I won't show them too long. This is Siri Sheik. This is Siri Sheik sire. Arab Tajwal Kar, his name was spelled different when they talked about him, and then later when he became a registered horse at a later age. He was considerably up there in age when he became a registered Appaloosa. They changed the spelling a little bit, like happens sometimes. And then, of course, his sire is the one that I'd first heard of the whole story of. I hadn't seen a picture of him known until the last 20 years. And, of course, this is... Desert King, I believe, is his name. But so you got the 3 generations of sires there. And I think I put on, yep, Desert King. So we'll talk about his story, but I want to get this other picture up here again tonight too, and it's a little fuzzy. So this horse right here was probably born in the 20s, and we're going to talk about him in a minute, but I have his pedigree pulled up here. Of course, there ain't much to his pedigree because some of it is just, you don't know how true it is, and they've traced it as well as they can. But there's a whole bunch of different stories. So they believe he was born in 22 is what they trace him back to Argentina, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's go find the picture of the two parade stallions here that I know quite a few people are familiar with. There we go. And again, this picture is going to be very fuzzy, but just bear with me there on this picture. So that's Jim and Irene Hoffman from Oregon, and Jim's on Siri Sheik, and his wife Irene is on Arab Tajwa Al-Kar, and Jim called these Libyan Arabians. He didn't call them, or leopard Arabians, he didn't call them Appaloosas, and he wouldn't register them with the new Appaloosa APHC breed that was in Moscow, Idaho, and he was in Oregon, so he was pretty close. Now, both these stallions, after they were sold, became registered with them, and they both became foundation stallions too. But at first, they were just registered with the Appaloosas. So one ended up with Paula Cooper, and that's the one on the right, the one the man's riding, Jim. That's Siri Sheik. Then Siri Sheik's sire, the one on the left, Arab Tajwa Al-Kar. Of course, his claim to fame in POAs, even though Siri Sheik bred some POAs too, but Al-Kar actually bred Arab, they called him, I believe. He's the sire to Siri Chief. And of course, Siri's Chief's blood spread more than anybody's blood. I mean, even modern days, Kiddo Tough, Tough Plotted, Chocolatey nowadays, whoever you want to mention, Gold Prince, Double Tough. The early day, he was the second registered stallion ever. He was born in 52, Siri Chief I'm talking about, and the breed started in 55. So he hit the breed as a young animal and just started, he ended up on Paula Cooper Corson's family's ranch down there in Arizona. They had 20-some thousand acres, and then he just ran down there and bred a bunch of mares. He actually ended up the sire of some Appaloosas. We don't talk about that too much in POAs, but that little pony stud ended up having some big foals that were registered as Appaloosas, and they just kept the pony part out. And then, of course, he was the sire of many, many POAs and a lot of stallions, a lot of the Siri stallions. Siri Super Chief and Siri Supreme Chief, full brothers, went and spread the name all over the country, the Siri Chief name. And then, of course, Siri Chief went to Michigan for a minute and then ended up in Iowa at Goldenrod Ponies. And Siris are everywhere. And you could play a game right now. People that are watching could just say a pedigree name, and we could put it in all breed pedigree and just look it up. And a lot of them would trace back to Siri Chief. Now, you'd have to go back 10, 12 generations or more, but his name would be back there. So he had a big influence on POAs. And growing up, when I was growing up in the early 80s, I remember seeing this picture, Sean Smith, and the story was that these were not regular Appaloosas, that they were Arabian leopards, and you see how he's got his head tucked under there a little bit in the parade saddles and stuff, and they treated them more like they were Arabians. You see they got their spotted shirts and stuff, but they did have different kind of spots, and a lot of the Siri horses did, and some of them had the halos and stuff. We had East Acres Chippetuff, who was born in 77, and he had what we called the big halos around them. So when you'd wash them, especially, or body clip them, you'd see these cool rings around their spots. We also had Driftwood Siri Tomahawk, who had two different types of breeding in him. He had the Danny Boy blood that was very different coat, too, shiny coat, and just felt different when you touched it. That wasn't related to these horses. It was the complete opposite. But then you had Siri on the bottom side, and again, he had the big spots, and sometimes he'd throw the wild leopards like this. So you got to remember, keep in mind, the breeders didn't know as much about genetics. They didn't have the LP and the testing and all the genes back then like they have now, and they didn't even know about few spots as much. A pure white one would sometimes be treated like a solid sorrel or bay, just a solid colored one. They thought they had Zippo zero, just it was nothing. They didn't realize, some of the early breeders started to realize, hey, we got something here that actually these few spots are the ones that are going to produce these colors. So, and POA is very fortunate, thanks to Gene Carr and some other breeders, some researchers, that POAs was almost ahead of Appaloosas in some aspects on knowing about color, especially the few spots. So, but again, back in the 40s, like this man here, Jim Hoffman, who passed away in the 50s, about 54 or so, he passed away. He treated these horses as very special, and they spread the story about the Libyan, Arabian, as they call it. And I'll go back to Desert King. So the sire to the one on the left was Desert King. Let's pull his picture up again, since this picture is a little fuzzy. And just bear with me on pictures. And again, if you want to know more about this horse right here, Siri Chief, number 2, I have a whole episode about him. Just find it on POA History. Be patient and you'll find it. It's the 2nd episode ever. So it was like in February or March of 2021 was that episode. And that was a very well watched, good episode about Siri Chief and Paula Cooper Corson and all the series. Okay, so here is the one that's on the left in that group picture. That's Arab Tajwa Al-Kar, and he is the sire to Siri Chief, so he would be very important in POA pedigrees. And let's get this off here. And then this is Desert King. This is the sire to Arab Tajwa Al-Kar, and they say that he was born in 22. They say all these were black leopard Appaloosas. Now, it's funny, in the POA stud book, and we know this can't be right. If Tracy was on here, she'd be saying it too. But Siri Chief, they call him a black and red leopard Appaloosa. Well, you can't be black and red. That would be bay, right? You can't be red and black. You can be tricolored and different things, but people that was out there, he was probably a bay leopard Siri Chief. There's people still alive that have seen Siri Chief, of course, so they can. I don't know if Dean ever seen him or not, but if he did, he can say what color he was, but he was definitely a leopard. So the story on Desert King, and I knew this story since the time I was a little kid, 8, 9 years old, is they say that he was smuggled out of the country he was from, which was like Libya or whatever, and him and a mare named Sudan, I believe, and they don't pronounce Sudan that way. Of course, they would say it totally different over there in an Arabian country. And but anyway, they were supposed to not be bred together, and they changed owners 3 or 4 times. Right there is kind of a red flag. They changed owners but stayed together so many times. And then finally someone did breed them together, and they weren't supposed to be bred together. And then the result when they were bred together, of course, was this horse. And that is Arab Tajwa Al-Kar. Well, then the Ghost Wind Stallions book came out when I was in high school, and I vaguely remember it. I read it once in the early 90s. Don Lalone is the author of it. No relation to the famous Lalones and POAs that was the executive secretary for 10 years, George, and his wife Pat, and their family raised POAs, the Cayugas in Texas, and then they moved to Mason City to run the POA club, and they were a big part of POAs. No relation to them, I believe, so totally different name. But anyway, he wrote this book, and it said that there was a ghost writer, Frank Scripter, and he had leopard Appaloosas. They called him the King of Appaloosas, and he believed about the Ghost Wind Stallions and about the Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest and how these came. And there was even a story how they came from Russia maybe and stuff like that. Well, now some of the more modern Pat Mefford and Sherry Bird's been helping me with some history. These ladies know their horse history, their Appaloosa history, and they know POA history too, way back, which most people now wouldn't even recognize these names. They know the Baker and the names like that. I'm talking about the 50s and the 60s, the really early, and the people that had Appaloosas and POAs at the same time. So some of those POA names have been forgotten now. Some of them are still remembered, like Pombo and Sons from California. I know some people don't know who they were, but they had polka dot prints, and they were early days big into POAs in California. So anyway, these stories nowadays are kind of tracing them back to Argentina, because we know A lot of POA, a lot of Appaloosas and POAs come up from Mexico and Central America. They came up through that way, and then some of them ended up in California. And a lot of these leopards, they ended up in California. And a lot of people on Arab Tajwa al-Kar, there was 4 different people that came forward and said they were the breeder. Well, that was kind of a mystery too, because they said, well, he wasn't from where he was because I'm the breeder. But not one person said that, 4. So that opened it up to interpretation too. How could 4 people be claiming he was the breeder? So maybe they had the wrong horse. So like I say, and when I wrote the POA book, I'm not pushing it tonight, but I'm just going to show it. When I wrote Spots Included, trying to write chapter 2 about Siri Chief was pretty tough. A lot of these were tough, like Dragon and stuff, because the history, history is old. We all know that. That's why it's history. But when some of it is myths, it's hard to, do you write the myth or do you write, there was that in a John Wayne movie, when the legend becomes more powerful than the true story, you print the legend. So a lot of times that's what happened. But I'd always put towards the end on some of these, that they were stories, and some people believe in the stories and some don't. So if you have a copy of this book, check out page 4. I talk about the Libyan leopard Arabians and the story, is it true or not, basically. So, but I explained how Jim Hoffman believed that that's what they were. He didn't call them Appaloosas, he called them leopard Arabians. But that's just a huge part of our POA story. So again, if you're new to POAs, I always talk about, and I need to have an episode about this, but Black Hand was born in Iowa. That's a cool story. Then here came Siri Chief, and this story here, which now it's been debunked, but they weren't just a pony born in Iowa. There was a mystery of where his bloodlines came from, and he actually was born in Oregon, Siri Chief, and then was registered when he was in Arizona. But Corret, Scottish chieftain, came over with a load of cattle, supposed to have been from Scotland, hence the name Scottish chieftain, but the boatload of cattle was in Canada and trailered down to the United States. So we don't know if the Scottish cattle, if he was with them in Scotland or if he jumped on board, in the trailer in Canada. Stewart's Danny Boy came from Canada, but he was from England, hence the name again, Danny Boy. Of course, Dragon was Dragon 103. He was registered with a whole bunch of wild Mustangs that came from Mexico. They were Appaloosas that just kept inbreeding and getting smaller and smaller. He was with the Duns in Texas, and then with the Hunts Triple H in Fairfield, Iowa. I know there's still some Hunts around, so they played a big part in the early single-digit days, like registered number 55 and 45 in that area. So like I say, Dragon himself could have been registered as early as 60. He was registered with about a group of 60, the first batch that they went and got in Texas and brought in Mexico and brought up to Texas. But Dragon ended up being registered towards the end of that pack at 103. So this story just kind of almost like it needed to be. They needed to be, they weren't Appaloosas, they were leopards, and they were this and that. But regardless, the head definitely was cool. The way they moved was cool. You still can see some of the influence in the spots today, even though we've outbred it so many times to a lot of different pony lines, and then of course to other Appaloosas, and then the last 40 or 50 years heavily to quarter horses. And now we've bred a lot of POAs to POAs. So we've crossbred it and outbred it so much but you still can tell some of this heritage for sure. And no matter where it's from, it's a cool story. If you get a chance to read the Ghost Wind Stallion book, read it. Well, like I say, like any book, you can say that with my book, I guess, with Spots Included, Legendary Sires of the POA Breed. But Ghost Wind, just read it, and have a filter out what you think is true and whatnot. There's cool stories anyway. So, and you can always make up your own mind. There's not a lot of stuff online, really. I was a little disappointed when you type in leopards and stuff. Like I said a couple weeks ago on here, you get more about big cats than you do about Appaloosa horses. So that was kind of discouraging. I couldn't find too much. I did finally find the Appaloosa Territory site, and I think Sherry Bird had a lot to do with that, and that was a cool site. Just a ton of information on there. I want to get a POA site up and running. That's as good as that. That is a very cool site. So anyway, that's some of the history here on the Liberian, or however you want to say it, Libyan, I guess. There's no R in it. Libyan leopards, and nowadays they're kind of saying they're more from their Argentina Appaloosas. They're from from that part of the country, which is a little different. And then they also say that they're Argentinian imports, and they go back to Pharaoh would be the sire of Desert King, and then Blue Hawk's his sire, and Winged Hawk all the way to Spotted Eagle. And of course, that's some of the story about the Native Americans told too. So we don't know how much of that is true. But if you want to research that, but just keep in mind, when I was 8, 9 years old reading this story, believing that this was a true story, it was pretty cool. Hi, Jan. I hope you're still watching. I just seen your note. Hi, Kent. Jan is watching. Tina in Wisconsin's watching. We got another Wisconsin person, so that's good. So I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. I told you this would be a quick episode. I just wanted to come on. I didn't want the election to bump us completely off for the week, because I am trying to get over 100 episodes this week. I do want to promote the Stallion deal again, because it is such a big deal, and I do need sponsors for this show to keep Studio J going, keep the lights on. Also, our main sponsor always is the Jackson family. We're in the 3rd generation here. I work with Kieran Jackson, who's 24 years old. He's Bruce and Linda's grandson. He's the only grandson currently working here full time. He's on the showroom floor with me. Then the guy that helped set up this studio is Shane Jackson. He's the oldest son of Linda and Bruce's. There's 4 sons. He's the oldest. He's the general manager here. Him and I work in this studio really close. So that's pretty cool. So I want to play our little jingle here.
Come join the family.
Come join the family. There you go. If you're looking for a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, a Chevy or GMC or anything used, come check us out. Hey, there I am on the screen. I want to get to the episodes again. There you go. So I could use a sponsor or two for the Wieskamp Impact episode. You have a very special guest, Bob Roseland. You ain't going to want to miss that. Bob doesn't do a lot of interviews, and he's very knowledgeable in POAs, Appaloosas, and quarter horses. Like I say, there's probably no one alive that knows the Wieskamp program better than Bob Roseland. So he'll be joining us live that night. And then Pat Burton will be joining us live a couple weeks after that on the 3rd. That's my mom's birthday. Of course, we lost my mom about 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. So, but that's still her birthday. And that's a very, very special episode that night. That'll be episode 100. Pat and I are just going to be sitting here just like we're drinking a cup of coffee. Same thing with Bob, except with Bob, we're going to be having a lot of pictures and a lot of stories talking about how Wieskamp's quarter horses and, of course, the Prince Plotted line and Red Plotted and all that impacted POAs. So them are both going to be cool episodes. And Hidden Gem Farms, I did the story about Crier Country a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to do that on purpose again, just like Black Hand and Beyond, a farm that's been around for quite a while up in Wisconsin. Now that one that's a little newer, but they're starting to win stuff and have an impact on the POA breed, and they're staying Clay Hill Lazy Loper's gaining a name for himself. So that'll be next week's episode, Hidden Gem Farms. And we do have a great sponsor in Maxine, and Chuck Shackleton from Iowa will be the sponsor next week. So I do want to say I asked quite a few people to be on this episode tonight. I get it. Some people just don't want to go on here. They don't. I don't think it's because of me. I think it's because of this thing. They don't want to talk in the microphone. They get paranoid or nervous. Just come on here. You don't even have to be pictured. You can be in your sweatpants or in your pajamas at home, and it's just on the phone. I call you up on my phone, and we have a cool conversation. And I think I'm getting kind of good at this, interviewing people. I've interviewed some very good guests the last 4 years, had some episodes that were, maybe not the greatest, and some that I'm very, very proud of. So just come on if you want to talk about your farm or a pony, some horse your brother or sister rode or whatever 30, 40 years ago, come on in. As long as it's about POAs, just contact me during the week. You can email me, text me, call me, whatever. Facebook, I have a big presence on Facebook. Just let me know. And if you don't want to be a guest and you still want a topic mentioned, you can do that too. So anxious for episode 99. That's Don. Okay. Hi, Don. Jerry, hello. So we got some more people that joined in here. Albie from North Carolina. Hopefully you're doing all right there. The country's been hit with some bad weather here the last couple weeks. So All right, we're about 7 o'clock. I told you it'd be a quick episode. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you guys want more information on the Siri Chief and Paula Cooper Corson program, again, try to find it on either YouTube or on the POA History Group on Facebook. Episode 2 of my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond, is about Siri Chief. And so you can, in about what he did in POAs and Paul Cooper. So that's a long episode full of pictures and a lot of information. So if you want further into POAs that way, into that bloodline, you can go watch that one. Hello, Allison. All right, everybody. I want to thank you again for watching. Tune in next week. We'll be on our regular time, 6:30 live, regular day on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, join us and that date will be the 12th. For the Hidden Gem Farms episode, brought to you by Jackson's Auto Family and the Shackletons from Iowa. Okay, everybody, enjoy the song. See you next week.